Hi guys, HyDra again today. Hope you're doing good and enjoying your day so far. OpTic versus FaZe happening for the first time in this new CDL season coming up this evening. Maybe the perfect time for OpTic to take down FaZe after their performance yesterday against the Vancouver Surge. Or will FaZe bounce back emphatically as they often do after a match defeat? Dashy though, also not happy about the way the pros have handled all of the GAs and the current meta we have in the game, saying, hey, why are we banning the snipers, saying they take no skill, and then having this meta, which arguably does exactly the same. Very much on Twitter your thoughts on a controversy in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Starting here, just gotta dive into that series again, right? Because yes, FaZe did lose to Surge yesterday. If you guys didn't see it, it was really the game 3, the game 4. They pretty much got clapped around really on the protocol control and the protocol hardpoint. Great maps from Neptune and certainly from Nastie. Nastie, a player who had a 1.4 against FaZe in yesterday's series. A player who I thought he was excellent in Vanguard. I thought he was a top 20 player in the world in that game. And last year, towards the end of the year, Nastie was great as well. Didn't have the best stage 1, but it's pretty rare that Nastie drops a stinker, you know, like his KD in that AR role is always reasonable enough. Like, I think his impact is always respectable, and he does have the occasional pop-off series, and I expect more to come, to be fair. And yeah, when he drew 1.4 against FaZe, that does not happen every day. So Drazah says, look, fair play, lost 3-1, OpTic coming up tomorrow. But as we've said in the past, when OpTic do lose, or when FaZe do lose, sorry, playing at their next series is often not the place you want to be. Certainly in the FaZe, like the prime days of FaZe, we're talking Cold War FaZe, and it was even true last season to some extent, and let's not forget they were literally on a 12 series win streak coming into this series yesterday. So it's not impossible to imagine it could be a similar story again when you play FaZe after they've just had a loss and it doesn't go to plan. I will say though, K-Sun was in like a FaZe group chat last night. It was getting talked about, and he said, look, we're not at the level we want to be at right now as FaZe. You know, we've got to keep improving. Sim obviously talked about their protocol. So, you know, I'm not saying that they got complacent after the major. FaZe, of all the teams that don't tend to get complacent, probably are the team. They tend to lock back into practice very quickly and keep kicking on. But, you know, naturally, when you win a major in the way that I did, you go into a series like yesterday, you probably expect you're going to win, and it didn't happen. Look, FaZe in their last 50 series are still 40-10 or something like that. So it's not like they've fallen off. But if OpTic were to be able to capitalise this evening, that would certainly set the tone for Stage 2 qualifiers, especially because FaZe started the Major 1 qualifiers 1-3, and then they started to go on their run. So we'll see if OpTic can capitalise this evening. Great result for Neptune as well, obviously replacing Hicksy and getting the job done as he did. There was also a bit of controversy yesterday around this clip from Hex. So Hex was talking about the World Championship and the Esports World Cup and what the plan is there. Now, first of all, he says he would love to have champs every year in Vegas. He's actually talked to some of the owners about this. Would I support this? No. But because of my bias, I'd like to have champs in London at some point. And also, I'd like to have champs. If I go, it's okay. But the West Coast events are a real nightmare for like European time zone, and also like when the events are in the West Coast, I have to get up like so early in the morning to make the video of the day. So from a pure personal bias perspective, I much prefer the East Coast events or events in Europe, or like Dallas is okay, we're at 6 hours behind GMT, that's okay. West Coast events are tough, and we've not had many really, if any, over the last few years. We did have champs in Vegas though a couple of years ago. We could go back there again. This year it's going to be Toronto to our understanding, but yeah, Hex says that he's talked to owners about this, having champs in Vegas every single year. Would you guys think that's a good idea or not? But the other piece is that he would like to see champs and EWC kind of combined, because I get why it's strange for the players when you play the majors of the year, you then have the big tournament, and, well, it's like there's another big tournament, right? This last year, they played the World Championship. A few weeks later, they're off to the World Cup in Riyadh. Now, firstly to note, the World Cup is never not going to be in Riyadh. Like, let's be honest here. That's the whole point of them putting the money in. So they're not going to say, oh, yeah, you know what? Yeah, we'll combine Champs and Esports World Cup and we'll do it in Vegas. Obviously, they've got the Vegas Falcons, so I get that. But they're going to do the World Cup and it's going to be in Falcons for the World Cup. Whether there isn't a World Cup for COD and it's just Champs, and, you know, maybe some of the money for the World Cup goes towards that, maybe. Would I support that? No, I want more COD events. Like, I don't think we have enough. The fact that we have Champs and EWC, I think, is a good thing overall. I do understand that it's kind of strange. In an ideal world to me, the events last year would have been swapped, you run the majors, the World Cup happens as almost a bit of a warm-up for the World Championship, and then the World Championship is the final event of the year. This year it's going to be as it was last year again. I'd like to see a world where the World Cup for COD happened right at the start of the 8 weeks of World Cup matches in Riyadh. We're talking like start of July, or middle of July, and then the actual World Championship is then in August sometime. That would be the way that I'd like to do it, but intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. But let's talk about some of the meta drama that was going on, right? Ghosty was talking about the gun that Cellium uses, the class that he has. We know that Cellium as well plays on some remarkably insane sense. So, yeah, definitely some interesting things going around. But we did see the JaCle's GA over the last couple of days. The nerfs that have come in, getting rid of the barrels pretty much, getting rid of most of the muzzle attachments, and obviously they've got the recoil springs on there as well. Loads of things happening with it. Is it the best SMG now? Probably not, but the pros kind of have a GA still to use it. Is it massively underpowered? No, it's still okay, but on a map like Vault, we're seeing a lot of ARs. So, you know, I just don't really get it. Apparently 8 ARs on the map is fine, but 8 SMGs, or it wasn't really even ever we got to see 8 SMGs. Some teams would use 4 JaCle's on a map. Was the JaCle strong? Sure. Did Big AR have their influence? Yeah, probably they did. And Scump gave his thoughts on it. Dashy, as an AR player, of course, he's going to have his perspective, but he feels like the meta right now is not very good. Certainly from the perspective of the skill gap in the game, because, as he says, this single tap, zero recoil, Warzone meta we're playing is comedy. I'm watching main ARs that haven't moved for 5 years look like Shotzzy on the map. So, lots of talk about certainly the way the AR is. Is the aims the strongest AR? No. Does it shoot very straight? Yes. Did we see a lot of it last night after the JaCle nerf? Yes. There was that talk as well about, well, the meta's changed now. Is Simp going to be the same player with the new SMG? Look, I've got no doubt that Simp's going to have no problems. But still, it's a talking point. The meta's changed. FaZe lost their first series. You know, maybe there's something to say about it. Let's not forget last year, Modern Warfare 3, when Toronto won the first event of the season, then the game changed relatively considerably. Skid Row Hardpoint was taken out, or Skid Row Search was certainly taken out, and then Skid Row Hardpoint down the line. There were some changes made, and it didn't favour Toronto. Maybe the same thing could happen into FaZe again, who knows. But he's basically saying, Dashy, the meta ain't great. Some of these main ARs are using weapons that have no recoil. They're using single tap to sprint as well, which is interesting because the pros tried to GA it and they can't really uphold the GA because nobody knows if they're using it or not. The CDL don't care. So, you know, the players have got great movement. Is there, you know, less skill gap in that than there could be? Sure. Is it fine as far as I'm concerned? Also, sure, in my opinion, but I'm sure many of the pros disagree. And Dashy also went to tweet this out, which I think is totally fair enough. Didn't we vote out the sniper with no attachments, by the way, because it took no skill, yet I'm running around with a zero recoil gun and single tap to sprint? Am I tripping? Where's the logic behind this? So, you know, I think it's a very fair take from Dashy. The sniper thing really annoys me and still does, especially because, and look, I appreciate Treyarch's attempts to help the competitive and the casual scene align. My problem is that I know lots of people, and I know you guys probably will as well, who would play ranks, but they don't want to because they want to snipe in search and destroy and they can't. So they'll just play pubs. And that's the type of thing that annoys me. So, is the sniper even too strong in this game? Certainly if you had zero attachments on it, absolutely not, in my opinion. I think if you brought it into the game, some teams wouldn't even use it in Surge, some teams would and would have moderate success with it. So Dashy's saying, look, bring the sniper back. We're currently playing a game, the gun's got no recoil, we're using single tap to sprint, the skill gap isn't very high anyway, and then you're saying that we took the sniper out for what reason precisely? So we then got some responses. I'll see Ghosty's one here again in a second, because Beans would love to snipe. Look, the guys who are going to snipe are going to tweet in this way because they're good at sniping. The pros and the teams that aren't good at sniping might think the same way, but they're going to sit there in silence because it doesn't favour their team. Classic GA drama, but as Bean says, sniping would make some of these boring S&Ds unbearable. No consistency with these arguments is actually hilarious. And then, yeah, okay, that was the other tweet. And then, of course, he quote tweeted this, Ghosty did, and said, all right, Scrappy, as Mr. GA Commissioner, because it seems like Ghosty is now the man in the chat and Scrappy's now been kicked, but he says, hey, what do you think about that? Should we bring it back? Should we start a vote to bring it back? is Ghosty just doing this for good PR? Because you guys remember when the Sib snaking drama happened, Ghosty called him out and said that he'd started the vote. Dashy called Ghosty out and said that he was only doing it for the clout. So, who knows? Intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. But we've got plenty to dive into here before we close out the video as well. Starting here just with a couple of quick stats I thought were funny. The Donut Kings of the CDL, Octane is leading the line by quite some margin, of course, now retired. But yeah, I thought it was pretty spectacular. And Octane, you guys probably remember the double donut back in Vanguard, and then he went on to win the World Championship, right? But yeah, that was a legendary thumbnail, I'm sure, on the video that day. Nero, Cammy, Big Wake, Asim, and Zuma all at 3 as well. Interesting that Zuma had 3 in his only season in the CDL. So had he kept competing, who knows what could have happened. But yeah, I thought that was pretty entertaining. But we do have some matches for this evening. Pred, of course, is back in OpTic now for the first time in some time. His last game that they played was against Cloud9. They lost to Boston 3-2 on the first match that they played of the season. Then a couple of days later, OpTic played Boston, or OpTic played Cloud9, sorry, of losing to Boston, and they 3-0'd Cloud9, and then Pred was dropped. Back to Australia, he went on his little, people are calling it the Dennis Rodman vacation or whatever, right? But anyway, Pred's back, and Hex is excited to see him back. These are the games that they are playing this stage. They start against FaZe this evening. Then it's Rocker on the Sunday. Next weekends, they play Ravens. So, not an easy start, but, I mean, if they play Ravens again, I'm excited for that one. Then there's the minor tournament, so that's why there's a weekend off here. Then they play Miami, Ultra, Thieves, and Gentlemate. So, not an easy stretch, I think, for OpTic at all, really. I mean, any stretch where you're playing FaZe and Thieves, and any stretch where you're additionally playing Toronto and, Ravens, 2 of the other, and even Heretics. I mean, all of the top placings in the most recent tournaments are right here. And even the easy matches, Rocker and Gorillas, Rocker were top 6, and Gorillas, it was a close match of the major, Gentlemates. So, difficult run, I think, for OpTic, given what they could have had. Will they be fine? I think they'll be absolutely fine, but we'll see how that goes this evening. So these are the games for today. I don't know that you guys want me to do predictions, so you can roast me tonight when I get them wrong, so let's do exactly that. Gentlemates Boston, tough series to call. My feeling is that Boston are the better team. I think that I'm surprised that Gorillas didn't do anything, to be perfectly honest. I don't think they were great. I mean, they obviously came top 12 of the major. I think they could have considered a change. They didn't. Are they still going to be respectable? Yeah, but I'm not convinced. I think Boston should be the better team. I'll take Boston, though, maybe I'll take Boston in 4 in this series. They did lose a control, though, yesterday to the Falcons, and Gorillas are pretty nice in that mode as well, Gentlemate. So I don't even know what to call them still nowadays. We're a significant stretch into the season. But I'll take Boston in 4, 3-1 fashion, you know what I like. Miami versus Minnesota as well. This was the Game 5 Round 11 banger at the major. But Miami, we think, might be playing with Super instead of Metals for like a substitute situation today. Minnesota, is Paulex going to go back to having a rough time online? Possibly. But it was Game 5 Round 11 on LAN. Miami are playing with a sub. I think if you had these teams play, 100 matches, it would be super tight. So this time I'm going to leave Minnesota as well. I'm going to give it to them 3-2. FaZe OpTic is tough. I'd like to predict OpTic to win. It'd be a phenomenal storyline. But my head says OpTic coming in with Pred and Kenny, online search and destroy. They've not had many days to get back up to speed. I think their respawns will probably be fine. My concern for OpTic, I think, is their search. I know that, of course, FaZe lost the search yesterday to Surge, but FaZe's search is still, by the numbers, the best in the game right now. And I just worry that OpTic, if it does go to Game 5, I don't think OpTic are going to win. I think OpTic might need to win before that. So I think I'm going to take FaZe in 5. I want a really close series. I think we might well get one with the way that FaZe played yesterday. It's also possible that FaZe just come out and play unbelievable COS, but I kind of doubt that. I think it's going to be competitive, but my head says that FaZe in 5 makes the most sense here. But it is the first time they've played on the new game, right? And it's the same teams as last year, where FaZe had OpTic's number last year, but the year before was the other way around. And then New York, Toronto. Interesting game. Cloud9, again, another team that I'm surprised didn't make a change. I think that they could have done. I think Toronto are just straight up the better team, and I think they'll win this series. I'm going to take a 3-1 probably in that. But yeah, intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.